to the third episode in the series Working with Cloud SQL. In the previous episode, we looked in more detail at how we can ensure that the MySQL command line tools establish a secure connection to a Cloud SQL instance. In this episode, we will look at a different approach for connecting, the Cloud SQL Auth Proxy. Connecting securely to a Cloud SQL instance through the MySQL command line is not ideal. You need to maintain all the certificates, you need to remember the IP address of your instance if you didn't configure a domain name, you need to whitelist the IP that you're connecting from, and in most cases it is not you who will be connecting, but your application. The Cloud SQL Proxy solves most of these problems. The Cloud SQL Proxy, or the Cloud SQL Auth Proxy, is an application that sits between your application and the Cloud SQL database instance. Rather than connecting directly to the Cloud SQL database, your application connects to the Cloud SQL Proxy, which in turn opens a secure connection to the database for you. So how does the Cloud SQL Proxy solve all of the previously mentioned problems? First of all, when a new connection is opened, the proxy will automatically download or renew the local certificates. Instead of remembering the IP address of your instance, you use the more easy to remember and descriptive connection name attribute, which consists of the project ID, instance name, and the zone or region in which the instance was created. Rather than verifying that traffic comes from the correct IP, the proxy uses a Google Cloud principal, which is a user or a service account, to authenticate before opening a connection. Finally, you can use any application to connect through the proxy to your Cloud SQL instance, as long as your application works with your standard database connection protocol. It's time now to show you how this all works. Let's dive in for a demo. I've already created a Cloud SQL instance and a Compute Engine instance with the MySQL command line tools installed so that we can focus on the core aspect of the demo, which is the Cloud SQL proxy. Let's start an SSH session on our Compute Engine instance. Okay, with the connection established, the next step is to install the Cloud SQL proxy. You can find the installation guide, which is part of the Google Cloud documentation website, in the video description. I read through the installation guide and copied the commands that we need to execute. The first command is a curl command that downloads the Cloud SQL proxy binary. The second command is the chmod command that we use to make the binary executable. And so that's all that's needed to install the Cloud SQL proxy on this Linux instance. Now, before we can connect to the Cloud SQL instance, we need to figure out the Cloud SQL instance connection name. We can use the Google Cloud command line, as in the previous video, to get this value. Now we have all the information that we need to open a connection to our instance. So let's start the Cloud SQL proxy. Provide the connection name, and that doesn't work. The main reason for this failure is the permission issue. In order for the Cloud SQL proxy to be able to renew certificates and open a connection to the instance, it needs to run with a Google Cloud service account that is allowed to connect to the Cloud SQL instance. Since we didn't configure a service account at the Cloud SQL proxy level, the Compute Engine instance's service account is used. Let's switch to the Google Cloud console to add the missing permission. In the Google Cloud console, let's go to IAM and admin to correct the permission issue. On this page, we need to click on the Grant Access button. We need to provide the principal that requires the access. In this case, our service account is called Cloud SQL Proxy Demo. I will select the suggestion. We need to assign a role. I will choose Cloud SQL Client. And then we click Save to add the permission. There are 3 Cloud SQL roles that grant permission to connect to a Cloud SQL instance: Cloud SQL Admin, Cloud SQL Editor, and Cloud SQL Client. Because we don't want to give our Compute Engine instance too many permissions, we will grant the Cloud SQL Client role, as this is the role with the least privileges. Now that the role is granted, we are ready to switch back to our terminal session. In my terminal, I've already opened 2 windows. One window in which we will run the Cloud SQL proxy, and in the other window we will test our connection. In the first window, let's run the Cloud SQL proxy command again to see if a connection can now be successfully established. In the second window, Let's now try to use the MySQL client to connect to our instance. As you can see in the leftmost window, the Cloud SQL proxy has accepted the connection from our Compute Engine instance and has forwarded the connection to the MySQL server, and our connection is now successfully established. As explained earlier, the Cloud SQL proxy takes care of encrypting the connection for us, so we don't need to worry about that. That's it. We are successfully connected to our Cloud SQL instance through the proxy. What's next? You're now ready to start using the Cloud SQL proxy for your projects. Be aware that if you're using Java, Python or Go, there is an easier approach for connecting to a Cloud SQL instance through a programming language specific connector. In the next videos, we will explore doing so in both Java and Python.